I want to quickly take a look at navigation inside of Houdini, right? If we hold Alt and left mouse click, we rotate around the object, which is great. But the problem is the middle mouse button and the right mouse button, I think, are backwards by default, at least the way I typically like to work. Right now, in the default state, if you hold Alt and hold down middle mouse button, you can pan around the scene. And if you do the same, hold Alt and right mouse button, you zoom in and out. I want to switch those, right? I want the right mouse button to be my pan. And because I just use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out anyway. The same is true of this node view area, right? I've got this geometry node. If I left mouse click, I drag it around. If I hold Alt and right mouse right now, I zoom in and out. And if I hit Alt and middle mouse button, I pan around. So honestly, this one's completely optional. Well, it's all optional, isn't it? You're not currently being held hostage, I don't think. If so, don't watch this, call 911. But we can change that very simply, just to revert it so that my brain is happy, and maybe yours is too. If you want to join me, we can do that right now. What we want to do, let's first of all close Houdini so that these updates will take effect. And let's open up our File Explorer here, head on over to the Documents section, Houdini 20, and this is what we want to touch right here, our Houdini.env file. This is the environment file. Houdini will look at this every time it opens up. So take a moment to look at the syntax here. Syntax basically is like specifics of coding language, like the specific characters used, so to speak. What you can notice right away is that there's a lot of hashtags. Hashtags in an environment file in Houdini basically mean, hey, yo, don't run me as code, my G. Instead, just look at me as like a bit of text for the user to read, right? I'm not supposed to be run as code. Anything without a hashtag will be run as if it is supposed to be code when Houdini launches. So what we want to do is we want to add the command in here to say, hey, middle mouse button should not be equal to pan, right? We don't want that. Now in coding, we'll go into this in a lot more detail later, but in coding, there are true statements and false statements. True is 1, false is 0. So what we want to say is, hey, this middle mouse button, it being pan, yeah, that's equal to 0. That's not true. I don't want that to be true in my world. Now I've already got it copied here, but this is what you want to type. All uppercase, Houdini underscore middle mouse button underscore pan space equals space 0. Control S to save that.
Okay, so now we're into Houdini, right? And there's a lot going on in this interface, right? It's a little bit overwhelming at first. So I just want you to focus on these 3 main panes. We've got right here the scene view. We've got over here the network view. This is where all your nodes are going to live. And then over here, we've got the parameters. These parameters will be associated typically with anything that you are highlighting node-wise. So you highlight a node, you see the parameters there. And we'll go ahead and drop like a test geometry here just to explore it a little bit. If you hit Tab, click on the OBJ section, click on the network view section, hit Tab, and type sphere. Now, you'll see if you can actually navigate these with the arrow keys here, just up and down, but there is sphere polygons and sphere primitive. You'll see this a lot in Houdini, and we'll go into it more in the future, but just know that these are basically just different variations of the same thing. It's like kind of like a pre-setup for you. We want to work with polygons right now, so let's go ahead and just highlight this and hit Enter. Now you'll see it's still a gray little ghost box. It hasn't actualized yet. You have to click in order to drop that down. So we've got a sphere. Now, we've got something in the scene. That's great. Let's quickly go over navigation. Now, we went over this a little bit for the node view, but if you hold Alt and right mouse button, you pan. If you hold middle mouse button and Alt, you zoom, and you highlight if you left mouse button click. In the scene view, if you're hovering over this and you hold Alt, left mouse button will rotate around, middle mouse will zoom in and out. You can also scroll that in and out, and the right mouse button will pan, right? Those are the main ways of navigating inside of the scene view. You'll also see that once we had this created, we got some parameters to play with. Now, what have we got here? We've got translate, rotate, scale, pivot, translate, all those fun things that we want. Right out the gate, a very helpful thing to do is if you hover over any parameter box and you hold the middle mouse button, you will get this very interesting collection of numbers. As you can see, it's 0.1, 0.01, 0.001, 0.0001, and then it ascends 1, 10, 100. Basically, whatever you hover over here, when you scroll to the left or right, that's how much it moves incrementally. So if you want to move it a bunch, we'll do 1. You can see by sliding left and right, I go to 0.1, I'm moving it less. This is just some detailed control over how to navigate your parameters, right? You can also just double click and put in 0.1 or something like that. These parameters work for the full object. You can see we're scaling the X, Y, and the Z, where you won't see the rotation, maybe just a little bit. We're rotating there. Then we've got uniform scale as well. All of these parameters are controlling this overall object. But what is this object, right? We're looking at this object. You look at me and you see a person, right? Just a big old skin wrapper. But underneath that layer, that top layer, is what actually is making me, right? It's the internals that makes it all possible. You can actually go inside these nodes, just like you can go inside me, which hopefully no one does in my lifetime. If we double click this, we have now entered that geometry. And this is what is making it up. We can see there's a sphere node in here as well. And look, this has its own set of parameters. But inside of here, there can be anything. This is what comprises the overall object. So if I hit tab and I type cube and hit enter and then click it down, I now have a box. We'll go over these flags in a minute, but if you just click the little blue flag on the right, you can switch between what we're actually seeing. And then if we pop back up to the top by clicking this OBJ section of the network view, then we pop back up and we can see the box is now actualized because that is what is flagged as going on the inside. So it's this idea of contexts, right? And again, we'll go into that also in more detail. I just want to give a real top level overview of this understanding, right? So OBJ, the object level of your scene. This is the scene, like this is the most macro perspective of your scene. This is the top level where you'll have your sphere, and I'll type test geometry and navigate down to rubber toy and just click that too, just for the sake of this illustration. I'll move him back on the Z and I'll zoom out a little bit. But you know, we'll have our different geometries that are interacting, and then, you know, you may have a light in your scene, and you know, you'll have a camera in your scene that you're looking through. You'll have all of these things on this top level, this OBJ level. So we'll be here a lot, and we'll be organizing this a lot because this is the thing we have to really keep clean. But inside of these geometry nodes, this is where the objects get built. So if we hit tab and type in merge and combine both of these things, and then hit that blue flag, let's highlight the sphere and just scoot it back a little bit. You'll see that we have two things now that both appear and disappear when we type sphere. So you build the characters, you build everything inside of these geometry nodes. I hope I'm not over explaining, but obviously first time in Houdini, like these are important aspects, right, to keep in mind. So I just want to make sure I'm very clear with that. This is the OBJ level, and then if you double click, this is what's called the SOP context. You'll hear something op all the time, right? There's mop, top, vop, pop, sop, dop. You'll hear it all the time, and we'll explain what those are. But SOP is short for surface operator. This is where we operate on what eventually becomes the surface of our overall object, right? That's how I like to think of it. Also to show you that inside the surface operator level, right, the SOP context, there are different controls. If you look at the sphere, let's delete everything, highlight, and just delete everything else but this. If we look at the controls on the OBJ level, now, real quick side note, you double click to go in, you click to go out, but you can also highlight something and press the I key to go in and the U key to go up one level. That's the way I like to think of it. You're going in one level or you're going up one level. So I, U, right? Maybe you prefer that. But if we go to the top level, right, the object level, and we look at the parameters here, we've got simple things: translate, rotate, scale, pivot, but nothing that we can use to actually change the shape of this object. If we go inside the SOP level, though, now all of a sudden, look, we see our wireframe better. We have a lot of controls over like the radius, kind of like we did on the top level, but these are different, right? The center of where it is, the radius, but there's also things like, look, rows and columns. This is where we can kind of add polygonal definition to our overall mesh. We can also change the primitive type to polygon or primitive, which was, again, remember, one of those options on the top level where instead of there being polygons, there's really just one point in the middle of this thing, right? So it's simplified geometry. Lots of flexibility inside this level, but it's also where if I take a certain point and I want to do some transformations, I can do all that inside of here, right? I can totally change the shape of this thing in any way that I want. I can destroy it so that it's hideous to look at and go back up to the top level and go, hey, yeah, this is still my sphere, right? We can also add animation inside of that as well. So all of those things take place inside the top level. Now, don't worry if this isn't making total sense. It's okay. This entire section, actually, it's okay if it doesn't make total sense, right? We're just laying the foundation for what we're going to do later, and it'll all make sense as we go, I promise. So we've got this hideous deflated monstrosity. It's perfect. But we want to go ahead and navigate around it. Now, we did cover that a little bit, right? Holding Alt left mouse button, holding middle mouse button, holding Alt and right mouse button, you can do all the different things you want to do. But these are known as perspective views, right? They're the perspective, but sometimes we want orthographic views. You can think of an orthographic view almost as an infinite focal length, right? The longest lens in the world. Everything is completely flattened. There is no perspective. You know, if we get close to this, right, this portion feels closer than this feels because of the perspective of it. But if we hold space and 2, we get a top view that is orthographic, where everything is flattened, basically. It's a perfect top view of our scene. If we hold space and 2 again, now we get a view of the bottom. Now, note that you do have to click into the scene view in order for this to work. If you click in here and hit space 1, it's going to do something completely different. So this is context-based. Keep that in mind. So click over the scene view, hit space 1 to go to the perspective view, which again we can navigate around. Hit spacebar 2 to go to the top. Hit spacebar 2 again to go to the bottom. You can pop back and forth between these. If you hit spacebar and 3, now you can go to the front or the back of your geometry. Take a nice good look at that. And if you hit spacebar and 4, it's right and left, right? So you got perspective view, top, bottom, front, back, and right and left. And you can actually see that right here, right? We're getting it right here. So we can just click this drop down as well, go to set view, and pick the one that we want. Now, what the heck is this? What is the UV viewport? Well, if you hold spacebar and hit 5, you will enter the UV viewport. If you know nothing about texturing, no worries at all. We will be going into detail on that. But this is where your UV lives, right? This is where we will edit our UV or specify our UV once it's set up. Now, this geometry doesn't have any UVs. If I hit tab UV texture, I got to go into it. What am I, a rookie or something? If I hit tab and go UV texture, now we have the UVs. This may look like gobbledygook, and that's okay. But point is, holding spacebar and 5 will take you to the UV view, which is good to know. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very, very handy. Now, I mentioned earlier this blue flag, right? This is important. On this level, it's either on or off. That's the display flag, so to speak. So you either turn it on or turn it off. If you go inside of it, though, we've got more flags. And if you actually hover over the node, you'll see these icons appear around it, right? If you hover over it long enough, it'll actually give you some text to know what it is. Like if you see this one is bypass, this is node info, this one is lock, this one is template mode, and this one is display. These are the exact same as these buttons right here. You can kind of see them get highlighted when I hover over them, right? The blue flag, the primary flag, is the display flag. Whichever node has the blue flag checked is the one that we are going to see. We will see that. Let's turn this down. This is too ugly even for me. Let's turn that down. Okay, that's a little bit less ugly. But yeah, whatever the blue flag is on is the one that we are going to see, right? We do this one, we can see this. We do this one, we can see this. And in that way, you can navigate through the stages of your geometry, right? Very, very helpful. Now, another option is the template mode. It's the purple flag here. Since this is displayed already, the purple flag doesn't do anything. But if I click the purple flag on a different one, look, we get the wireframe version, right? The templated version of the next step in the process. So we can essentially get an overlay here. We can display one thing and we can get the overlay of the other, right? That's handy in many circumstances. If we create a box here, let's say we want to wireframe this next step, but we also want to wireframe something else. How do we do that? Well, if you hold Control and click on the purple flag, first it will turn a deep purple, and it will actually show the entirety of the object, right? If you hold Control and click it again, it'll go to wireframe mode. But now we have 2 wireframe modes active. You can activate, I think, as many purple flags as you want, which is really handy, right? Turning on as many as you want so you can visualize everything you need to in your scene all at the same time. But note that you can only have 1 deep purple flag active, right? That's a secondary, basically fully opaque piece of geometry. So we've got the purple flag, we've got the blue flag. Now, if you have multiple purple flags active, just be aware that by simply clicking, not with Control, just left clicking on any purple flag will set it to be the only one that's active, right? You can mess around with that. We've also got the lock button. I almost never use this button, right? We click this, it doesn't seem to work. I don't know why, but if we click the little frost icon, we can freeze that. It's like freezing your credit for you oldies out there who know what I'm talking about. Once you do it, making any changes at all will have no effect. Same too for anything that comes before it, right? Because Houdini's procedural, it works trickle-down style. If this is frozen, it doesn't matter what you change, nothing will be updated. This is a dangerous node, right? This is something to be aware of, because if you have this toggled on and you make a bunch of changes and you don't know what's going on and you move on, when you eventually do and you uncheck it, let's say I make changes, I eventually unfreeze it, it's going to say this operation will discard the locked changes. I say okay. Boom, everything updates. All the mistakes I made in my past, come to the forefront, right? And we don't want that. We don't want that. So I almost never use this node, but know that it's there, right? If it's working for your workflow, then it's the right answer for you, and that's great. The other flag to be aware of is the bypass flag here. That is at the very end. I typically just click this arrow button. It's easier for me. But it basically says, hey, skip this node, right? So if we've got a node chain of events that's going through, we just toggle that to bypass that particular node. Helpful in a ton of different circumstances. You can also highlight the node and just press B instead, B for bypass, which is helpful. Now, the other flags too have shortcuts. If I highlight this and I hit R, that will put the display flag on it. If I hit E, that will put the templated flag on. So I can highlight this box, I can press E, this box, press E, and of course B as well. So, it depends what kind of stuff you want to do. I don't typically use the shortcuts myself. I just click the flag. I'm old school like that. But either way, super handy, super helpful. And then the last one here is the information, right? Houdini is built on information. That's stuff that we will go super deep into as we move on in the process here. But by clicking on this node info button, you get a little pop-up right here. And this is basically the summation of what this node is, how it's comprised. You can see how many points are on the geometry. You can see how many primitives are on, how many vertices, how many polygons total. You can see the center of the object in world space. You can see the minimum and maximum point position of the object. You can see its total size. You see all sorts of information, as well as all the attributes that it has that we'll get into later, right? So this is very handy as well. If you click it, it pops up and it stays. You can also middle mouse button click and hold on the node in order to actualize that same information, right? If you don't want something permanent, you just want to check it out real quick, you can just click and hold that. And that's great too. So yeah, one more time real quick, it's display flag, template flag, freeze flag, bypass, and then there of course is the information that you can toggle on as well. All super handy in different circumstances in Houdini. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more, head to doublejumpacademy.com/Jordan for the full course. Links in the description. You're just a click away.